Ever feel like your cybersecurity budget could use a little superhero level boost?
Hmm.
We're talking about those hefty federal grants that can, transform your tech from barely there to bring on the cyber tax.
Right.
Today, we're diving deep into how to unlock these grants because we're not talking about pocket change here. We're talking about like potentially millions of dollars to bolster your defenses.
And you're right, it's not just about wishing for a bigger budget. It's about, understanding what makes a grant application stand out and how to tailor your message to resonate with the agencies while holding the purse strings.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
luckily for us, you shared this awesome guidebook specifically designed to help folks like our listener navigate this world.
Mhm.
Let's say you're facing outdated tech, pressure to like ramp up cybersecurity.
Yeah.
This guide is like that trusty GPS guiding you through the maze of federal grants.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what's great is that it doesn't assume you've been through this process a million times. It's designed for those who might be new to the world of federal grant applications. So it like holds your hand every step of the way.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First things first, this guide emphasizes that you can't go on this quest alone.
Right.
It's all about assembling your A team right from the start, and this is where it gets interesting.
I see where you're going with this. It's not just about rounding up the usual suspects. They actually recommend bringing together folks like your IT director, your CFO, and get this, your emergency management director.
Now, that's what I call a power team. But why the emergency management director, you ask? Well, it's about connecting the dots between cybersecurity, technology, and real-world scenarios. A cyber attack, especially on critical infrastructure, can quickly escalate into a full-blown emergency.
Precisely. And having that emergency management perspective on your team from the get-go adds a layer of real-world urgency and impact to your application. It shows that you're not just thinking about hypothetical threats, but about the safety and security of your community.
It's like assembling the Justice League.
But wait,
Wait, there's more. Don't forget your legal eagles. They're crucial to make sure everything is squeaky clean with federal regulations.
absolutely. Because the last thing you want is to have a brilliant proposal tripped up by like a missed compliance issue.
Right.
Having your legal team on board from the start ensures you're covering all your bases.
And since we're talking about covering bases, early involvement of your procurement team is another game changer this guidebook highlights. Why is that so important?
Well, think of it this way. You're asking for potentially millions of dollars. Procurement can help you not only map out exactly how you'll spend those funds, but also demonstrate to the grant agencies that you have a solid, transparent, and accountable plan for, using those taxpayer dollars wisely.
It's all about showing them you're responsible and thinking ahead. But building this dream team isn't just about looking inward, right? We also need to look outside our organizational walls.
Exactly. Remember, the State Administrative Agency, or SAA we mentioned earlier, they're like the gatekeepers for these federal grants.
Yeah.
Building a relationship with them early in the process is critical, especially since many federal grants require their stamp of approval.
Think of them as the seasoned adventurers who've navigated this terrain before. They can offer invaluable insights and guidance, ensuring you're on the right path from day one.
And of course, don't forget the folks who will actually be supplying all the amazing tech you're requesting, the vendors. They can give you up-to-date technical specs and cost estimates, which are crucial for a strong application.
So you've got your internal Justice League assembled, you've got your external allies on board. What's next on this grant-seeking adventure?
Well, before you start filling out forms, this guidebook emphasizes the importance of understanding the timeline involved. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart.
So we're talking timelines. Give it to me straight. How much time do we need to set aside for this epic quest for a grant?
Well, think of it this way. You wouldn't start planning a surprise birthday party the day before, right?
Right.
Same goes for these federal grants. This guidebook recommends starting the process a good 3 to 4 months before the deadline.
Okay.
No last-minute scrambles here.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Careful planning is key. But what does that actually look like during those initial months?
Those first few months are all about laying a solid foundation.
Okay.
It's not just about drafting the narrative. It's about gathering all the intel you'll need.
Right.
This guidebook really hammers home the importance of data.
Data. Well, what kind of data are we talking about here?
This is where those vulnerability assessments you might have done come in handy. Remember those late nights identifying your organization's weak points?
Yeah.
Turns out they're not just for show. These assessments, along with incident reports and other data points, paint a picture of your current cybersecurity landscape.
Okay, and let me tell you, a compelling narrative backed by cold, hard data is far more persuasive than just saying, trust us, we need this.
So it's like building a case file, showing the grant agency exactly why you deserve to be their next big investment.
Right.
You're not just asking for a handout. You're presenting a well-researched, data-driven argument.
Exactly. And speaking of arguments, let's talk about crafting that compelling narrative this guidebook keeps mentioning. We're now roughly 2 to 3 months out from the deadline, and this is where things get exciting. This is where you get to tell your story.
Okay, story time. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
How do we make our organization's grant application stand out from the stack?
Remember that dream team we assembled?
Yeah.
This is where their expertise shines.
Okay.
This guidebook emphasizes that your cybersecurity plan shouldn't just be a, a generic document.
Right.
It needs to detail the specific tech upgrades you're proposing and, most importantly, why.
For example, if you're requesting funding for a state-of-the-art firewall, explain how it'll prevent those pesky ransomware attacks that have been keeping your IT team up at night.
So instead of just saying, we need a new firewall, we're saying, our current defenses are like a flimsy screen door against a hurricane of cyber attacks, and this new firewall is the reinforced steel door we need.
Now you're getting it. And don't forget about network segmentation. Imagine being able to isolate critical systems in case of a breach, preventing a domino effect that could cripple your entire network. That's the kind of story that resonates with grant agencies, showcasing the tangible impact these upgrades will have on your organization's ability to, withstand attacks.
It's all about connecting those dots, cybersecurity, technology, and real-world impact. But let's not forget the financial side of things. This guidebook emphasizes the importance of a well-crafted budget. Tell me more about that.
Ah, yes, the budget, the backbone of any good grant application. This isn't just about throwing numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about transparency and justification.
Because throwing money at the problem doesn't magically solve everything, right?
Right. Each line item needs to be accounted for. New servers, software licenses, training for your team. Everything needs to be laid out clearly, demonstrating that you've thought through every detail and, importantly, that you're being responsible with taxpayer dollars.
It's like saying, we're not just asking for a blank check. We have a detailed plan for how we'll spend every dollar to maximize impact and strengthen our defenses. Speaking of impact, this guidebook features some pretty inspiring real-world examples of successful grant applications. Let's dive into those because I think they'll really help bring this to life.
Absolutely. These case studies offer valuable lessons and insights that go beyond, the theoretical. For instance, there's a fascinating story of a county that managed to snag a sizable emergency management performance grant.
Okay, tell me more about this county that got this grant. I'm all about learning from those who've walked this path before.
So this county, they had been targeted by a series of phishing attacks.
Right.
And they realized how vulnerable their systems were, especially during disaster recovery,
Oh, wow.
when everything's already chaotic.
Yeah.
So they put together this really compelling application, highlighting the need to bolster their cybersecurity, especially during emergencies. And it really resonated with the grant agency, their foresight and commitment to disaster resilience.
It makes sense. During a crisis, the last thing you want to be dealing with is a compromised network. They made a strong case that this grant would help them keep critical systems up and running when it mattered most.
Exactly. They understood that cybersecurity is not just about preventing data breaches, but it's also about ensuring that your organization can function even when, things hit the fan.
Right.
And speaking of disruption, there's another compelling story. This one involves a city that was struggling with outdated emergency communication systems.
Oh, this is starting to sound familiar. I'm sure we all know the frustration of trying to communicate during an emergency with a system that feels like it's from the Stone Age.
Right. So they were facing all these delays in emergency response times because their systems couldn't keep up.
Wow.
And the grant agency recognized that, modernizing their communication systems was critical. It wasn't just about technology. It was about public safety.
Right.
They made a powerful argument about how these upgraded communication systems would quite literally, save lives.
That's the kind of story that resonates with grant agencies. It's not just about technology, but about using these tools to really make a difference, to improve the lives of the people you serve.
Absolutely.
These stories, I mean, they really highlight how crucial cybersecurity is, especially now with, digital infrastructure becoming so central to everything.
It's essential.
What I'm hearing is it's not just about having the latest gadgets, but about how those gadgets actually translate into real world security and ultimately, safety for everyone.
Exactly. These stories really drive home the importance of showcasing the impact of your cybersecurity efforts. It's about connecting the dots from those tech upgrades to real-world outcomes and making a case that, resonates with those holding the purse strings.
So let's bring it all home. We've talked about building the right team, crafting that compelling narrative, and showcasing the impact. What are some key takeaways from this guidebook that we can, keep in mind as we navigate this world of federal grants?
One of the biggest things for me is the importance of aligning with federal priorities. Grant agencies are looking for projects that address those big national needs, like, disaster resilience, critical infrastructure protection, cybersecurity, things that have a broad impact.
So we need to show them how our project fits into that bigger picture. It's not just about us, it's about contributing to those national goals.
Exactly. And another key takeaway, collaboration is key. Highlight those partnerships, with state, local, or even federal agencies. Successful grant applications often showcase those joint efforts.
It's like demonstrating that you're not just operating in a silo, you're part of a network, all working together towards that common goal.
Right. And don't forget about all that data we talked about earlier. Use those vulnerability assessments, incident reports, any information you have to make your case even stronger.
It's about showing, not just telling. You've got the data, let it speak for itself.
Exactly. Remember, this isn't just about getting funding, right? It's about showcasing your organization's commitment to cybersecurity and building a more resilient infrastructure, setting the stage for a safer future.
This has been such a great conversation. We've unpacked so much about navigating the world of federal grants for cybersecurity. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's a whole lot more to explore.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot more to learn, like the specific requirements,
Yeah.
application processes, and how to really make your case sing. But this guidebook, it's a great starting point.
So, to our listeners, I encourage you, take a deep dive, explore those grant programs, learn from the successes, and most importantly, don't be afraid to chart your own course. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.